Good morning. Today our guest speaker is Clotilde Iaia, the managing partner of Yungo Legal. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure to have one of the most famous Italian lawyers in the UAE and a public figure. I know you've been speaking and invited into many conferences to address some of the most important issues in the legal sphere. And recently I read a lot of articles for you as well. And whenever I go to your website, I see a lot of text that is intriguing and is actually, there's a lot of guidance in terms of the law in the UAE, which is very nice. But before we go into legal topics, I would like that you introduce yourself to us and tell me when did you start your journey with the law and where, how long you've been in the UAE, please.
Thank you, Ahmed. It's very nice, first of all, to be here with you. With regards to, thank you so much for, I'm not famous, I'm sure I'm known in my community, of course, because I've been in the UAE for 20 years, on and off. My legal journey started when I decided to study law at university. That was in a long time ago, let's just say. That was a long time ago, about 25 years ago. Both my parents are lawyers, and so for me it was a little bit of initially a default choice, as many students, when they're very young, they don't really know what to do. And since I seem not to have at that time a realization what my passion was, I decided to go into law because I thought, oh, well, worst case scenario, if I'm not great at it, if I do not excel, I would still have a job. I can still go and do my family, follow up into my family footsteps and take over from my parents at some point. But actually, when I went to law school, I found out that was my passion. And I really enjoyed studying law. It was an amazing experience. I had Bologna, where I studied in Italy, is an amazing liberal city. Even at that time, it was full of students coming from also different parts of the world. John Hopkins University had been having a university there for a very long time for students exchanging programs with the US. There were, and then Erasmus had just started, which is this program within Europe where students within the community could exchange program between university and the European community. It was an exciting time, I have to say, to study law or to study anything in the 90s.
Yeah.
I graduated then law in the early 2000 and qualified as a lawyer in Italy, Avvocato, that's what it's called, very quickly in 2003. So I was a very young lawyer. I remember at the time going to court. At the time I worked for a very famous professor in procedural law. And so often I had to go to hearings on his behalf, and everybody would ask me, oh, where is the professor? And I would say, no, it's not coming today. Also, where is the lawyer? And I was like, well, I am the lawyer. And then nobody could believe me because I was quite young. And I looked also young because I had a bit of a baby face. I had a successful career in Italy, in Bologna. I was happy, I had a good job, but at some point I felt I needed a new experience and I wanted to really explore more, have the opportunity to work abroad. So while I was going to a court session, I saw this advertisement for a master degree in commercial law in Arab-speaking countries.
Okay.
This was a master degree that had been sponsored by Saudi Arabia and the University of Bologna together, and it had run for only 2 years, and there were only 30 candidates per year. And I was selected to attend this master's degree, which I loved because it gave me the opportunity to do an internship at the Italian Trade Commission, which is part of the Italian consulate. at the time. Now it's a kind of privatized organization. But at the time, it was as a commercial attaché of the Italian consulate. So I did this internship here in Dubai at their office and fell in love with the city, because in 2004, when I first moved here, I just qualified as a lawyer. The opportunities were amazing. The city, the country was in full swing. The real estate market had just started.
Yeah.
It was absolutely happening. You know, when I said that I had an elevator pitch, it actually meant that I could do pitches in the elevator and actually get clients. Our office was at the time in Al Musa Tower at I think it was the 18th floor. And between the first floor and the 18th floor, I often get clients off the door, off the elevator into our office.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it was exciting really at the time. I worked at the time with a small law firm, which was a German-British joint venture, which then was acquired a few years later or entered into a joint venture and then became fully fledged Eversheds.
Wow.
Yes, and so it was really exciting times. I had two partners, one from British Jordanian background and another Syrian Canadian. We were three very young lawyers, and I think only in a city like Dubai, three very young lawyers could set up a law firm and be successful. It was a different times, and it felt absolutely amazing. I've not had the same experience afterwards because it was so new and exciting, and we were young and we were being very successful and we had amazing clients. At some point, of course, I joined Taylor Westing afterwards because I had a young baby and I wanted to reduce working hours. As you know, our job requires long hours. Long hours. So I wanted to have a bit more flexibility after having, invested so much of my time into bringing a law firm from 3 people to joining a massive, big law firm.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the time to join a bigger law firm where I could just work as a consultant for projects that I was willing to work for. So that's what I did. But then in 2014, again, that life put me in the position of choosing between continue living in the UAE and staying in the job I had at the time, or moving to London and maybe find other opportunities. I decided to move to London for several reasons that are personal. But at the time, of course, nobody thought that I could work remotely. And for me, it was very important. I had built a practice in corporate law, in real estate law, and intellectual property law, and I didn't want to leave that practice unattended. I had, in any case, like a huge project that I couldn't just delegate because it would have been too costly to the client. And so I decided I was just going to set up a small law firm while I finish at least this project and while I am living in London.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that this project that was supposed to be just a temporary solution actually became my life project. And I moved, so I continued to commute between London and Dubai for about 6-7 years. The law firm became quite successful. I didn't do much marketing at the time because honestly, I had so much work and I had to develop a team and train them, and it was too much already to handle. And then COVID, of course, happened, and COVID changed lives of many people, and then commuting was no longer possible. And with my husband, we decided it doesn't matter where he works, really, because he can work from anywhere. For me, was more important the connection with the territory, because you still need to meet clients and you need to do networking, and it was starting to affect me not to be able to come to the UAE as much as I wanted to. So in 2020, we returned to the UAE. I had to first reduce my team because COVID brought lots of issues. My main clients at the time were in events management, because I do lots of intellectual property, art related work, legal work, of course, and it became very difficult to receive payments. I had lots of work, but no payments. So we had to reduce the team, and now because of that, I had to find new ways and new income streams that did not come traditionally only from corporate commercial law, which I think it was a market that had been in the UAE saturated by a number of different law firms, compared to, of course, when I first moved here in 2004. And so I had to find different streams of revenues. And one of the streams that I found, a lack in the market of diversity in the offerings was family law and private clients. Of course, there are law firms that are dedicated to private clients, but still they only or mostly do maybe white-collar crime or corporate commercial law, but none of those firms, except few exceptions, have a proper family law department. There are, of course, some firms that are dedicated to wills and testament and inheritance and estate law, but none of these firms seem to have like a full department that covers all these areas at the level that I would have expected as, coming from corporate commercial law and from big law. My clients have very high standards of legal care that they're used to. And very often you don't find the same standards in those sectors of the law. And this is why Yungo Law is now opened this new family law department, which from a corporate commercial law perspective, I found very interesting and refreshing, first of all, to delve into something new, to get to know a new market and trying to understand what are the requirements on the market, where are the opportunities, because that's just how I work. And then, of course, trying to fill that, to fulfill those requirements, those markets' demands, with an offering that meets with their expectation. And we are trying to do that. We're really engaged into that process, and I think our family law department has really grown in the past year. It's been really exciting to do something new.
This is great to know. I mean, you find your niche in the market. And but what sort of clients you focus on? Because in the UAE, with one of the most diverse countries I've lived in, we have Muslims and we have non-Muslims. We have Muslims who are Arabs and Muslims from everywhere in the world living here, local Emiratis. We have everything. So on the family law, I guess there are a lot of challenges when it comes to the application and which law would be applied. What do you see is more your focus on, most of your clients are coming from the local Emiratis or the Islamic background?
This is a very good question. Initially, very recently, we actually went through what is called an emotional intelligence executive coaching course. Part of the course is about understanding how the team works, making sure we communicate equally with each other, making sure we are always up to date with what each other is doing so that we can support each other. But another part of the discussion was about who is our target client, who is our avatar client. We have individuated these avatar clients, both a female and male avatar client. I have to say religion is not one of the aspects that would define that avatar clients. It mostly has to do with age, with economic, with their economic availability that they have to spend on a divorce. Divorce are expensive.
Yes.
But we also focused on providing pro bono services especially to women that are unable to afford representation in divorce cases. As you may know, a lot of workers or employers or executive employees, not employers, executive employees that come to the region come for a job and their wives and family often follow because they go with the husband that has a job. This also means that women often lose their job in the country of origin, and because of maybe education background, inability of speaking English, or simply the inability of securing a job, they suddenly find themselves in a much weaker position from an economic standpoint, because they have come with somebody that provides financially, and not always they are able to provide the same or to have the same financial chances or possibilities. And because of that, when they come to a divorce, it's really hard on women, because they find themselves here without family support, without friends support, and they still have children that they have to feed, they need to send to school. So we find that as a public service provider, we can't just look at the services that we provide as profit generators. We also feel that it is our duty to give back to the community.
To the community.
And so it's a program that we have. We cannot help every woman. There are certain requirements that we ensure are there for us to be able to support them in a divorce case, because divorce is hard and it's not always the right solution.
Yeah.
And it's not always the right time that they come to us. So we need to make sure that before they engage into some kind of this sort of procedure, we have to ensure that they're ready.
Yeah.
Both psychologically, that they have a system that supports them, that they have community around them, and sometimes we have to become part of that community. This, of course, is very passionate. I'm very passionate about this type of work. But as I said, we can only do it in a limited amount of number of women per year, because it's really time consuming.
Of course.
And so we can only take maximum 2 cases a year, because every case lasts about at least 5-6 months if we are lucky and we are able to go to Abu Dhabi Judicial Department Court. But it's a lot longer if we go before the Dubai courts. And so it takes...
You see this difference between Abu Dhabi and Dubai in this case?
Yes. So Abu Dhabi Judicial Department, perhaps because they started a bit earlier with the personal status court, the family civil court for non-Muslim, for instance. Their system is very efficient. Their system works. When they give you a time for a hearing, is a little bit like the DIFC court. That's the time, and at that time you have to be there and you have to be present. Because of that, it's absolutely, their work is brilliant. It's absolutely amazing and outstanding, the job that Abu Dhabi Judicial Department has done in terms of providing experts that are non-Muslim speakers, and that are, just going back to the non-Muslim aspect, non-Arabic speaker, non-Arabic speaker, and also non-Muslim. Because sometimes, Ahmed, just to be a little bit candid about it, the cultural aspect of a divorce and the way women or men are judged within that procedure can be very different between somebody with background, religious background, as can be a Muslim, and somebody that does not have that religious background. Therefore, that also means that judges, even though they're applying a law, they might still be biased by their own beliefs. I find that because Abu Dhabi Judicial Department has a mixed bag of case managers, and is inclusive and is more diverse. I think Dubai Personal Status course just started a few months back, and at the moment I think it's overwhelmed with a number of cases, and it's so it takes longer, and there is also maybe because of this being overwhelmed with the number of cases, there is a bit less attention to the human side of going through something that is so much, like it's a huge event in someone's life. it's life changing.
Yes.
And so we do appreciate that in these cases you need to have some empathy.
Yeah. What are the most common conflicts in divorce that you see happening here? Especially you've been having this specialty as a niche, and you must have seen a pattern of a certain problem that when it comes to divorce that most couples have a problem about.
Yes.
What's the pattern here?
Usually the pattern is that, I guess, because lots of men come here and have these amazing jobs and opportunities, and they suddenly making maybe twice what they were making in their country of origin. I think they become a bit too emboldened by having so much money at their disposal, but having lost any connection with their community. Right? I mean, I think you come from Egypt originally,
yes.
right?
Egypt,
and I come from Italy. One thing that I think is very important when you come from a small town, right, is that connection that you have with everyone in your community, because that connection is what makes you also be responsible and be accountable for what you do. Then suddenly you go in a country where nobody knows you. That connection with your community, the fact that people might judge you because you're not behaving properly, suddenly maybe stops being there. I don't know, I am not clearly a psychologist, but what we see is that there is a change in the behavior that suddenly becomes more abusive and more controlling, because also the weakest part in the relationship was usually the wife, because economically is absolutely the person that is the least protected economically, because they have no family, they have no support, their mother's father, they're no longer here, so they're completely dependent on this one person. And this one person, sometimes, depending on the personality, of course, of each one of us has a different personality, tend to take advantage of that position of power, which is, it's normal, it's human, it's being human. You are just, if you have power, you have to be you have to have a very strong personality to put that power in check. I think that's what happens. Yeah. And so these are the cases, most of the cases.
Conflicts you in the controlling side, and you said financial as well. There is
a lot of economic violence. Related cases.
Okay.
Do you know what economic violence is?
I understand the term.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we can explain it, because sometimes people don't even understand that they are exercising economic violence. So, right, when you are the person that has economic power, that has economic control of someone's life, economic violence is starting to say, I'm not going to pay your credit card this month. Either you do what I want, or I'm not giving you food, or I'm not taking you on vacation, or I will decide where we go on vacation, but you have no voice into that. Or we'll start say, oh, well, I'll take the kids out of school, or I will decide to go and have ballet classes rather than not having any extracurricular activity. So it's taking away any control or any possibility for the other person in the relationship. I'm not saying this only happens, of course, between when the man has the economic power. It can also happen when the woman might have more economic powers. It's just that traditionally and also statistically it happens less, because there are less women worldwide that earn more money than compared to their husband.
I've also noticed that this economic power can, like the abuse of this economic power can occur not just between the husband and wife or vice versa. It can happen with the children as well, or with the let's say the young adults. Like I've seen cases where 20 years old young lady is calling me and says that I cannot do this and that unless I obey my parents, who are basically my economic support.
Guardians,
and they use this. Is this something that is regulated here in the UAE? Have you seen any clauses?
As a guardian of minors,
Or between spouses?
Well, between spouses for sure,
Yeah.
yes. Between spouses, absolutely. This is one of the most common causes for divorce that we see.
Yeah.
With regards to minors, there are criminal laws in the UAE that protect minors from harm.
Yeah.
I am not an expert
Sure.
of criminal law.
Yeah.
But I do know that there are laws that can be used to protect minors in such cases. But I don't have enough experience on the economical parts.
Yeah.
Yes, because you are not allowed actually to cut off your children of their food or educational support.
Yeah.
That would be against the law, and there are criminal consequences if parents do that.
Yeah.
The law doesn't specify that this only happens until the children are 12. No, this happens throughout their life. There is also another point to consider is that, okay, what happens when the children are no longer 21, they are older, but they're still not married or they don't have their own financial independence. Are parents still obliged to provide support, economic support? This is something that happens as well in front of divorce cases where children are still at university. Is the father still responsible to pay university's fees until when the children are finished with their studies or have found their first job? My opinion is that yes, they are still responsible to provide economic support, because until when who are otherwise who? But what is unclear, but this is unclear I think in any country, is for how long parents will be responsible, because we have cases in Italy unfortunately where children that are in their 40s, they're still living with their parents who are 70s and demanding that the parents clean for them, cook for them. There was a recent case in Italy related to this. And actually, in the end, the children had become the abusers of the mother and living off her pension. So how do we regulate that, right? How do we, so I guess each case is different, right?
Yes.
And you have to look at that in from a different perspective, because of course those are the children of this 76-year-old woman, but are they still entitled to request for this woman to continue to clean and cook every day, and they all live out of her pension, and none of these two sons had thought, oh, let me go and seek some job, occupation, anything, to help. So I think it's something that family law will see. Yeah. It's interesting to see, because as society changes and progresses, then also new laws become required.
We have seen this in the UAE. There's a lot of rewrite of many legislations and introduction to new ones, like what you just highlighted about the ADJD in Abu Dhabi, and introducing a new personal status law. And recently here in Dubai as well. You've been practicing for some time here, and you have 20 years experience, which is amazing. How do you see the transition of the court mind, like the system when it comes to divorces, or because this is quite recent, and have you seen any divorce cases happening based on the new regulations, and how does the court deal with it?
We have plenty of cases related to this, both in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The amazing thing again of Abu Dhabi Judicial Department courts is that foreign lawyers are allowed to represent their clients, although the clients must also be present to the hearing with the foreign lawyer. Yeah. Which again, it just guarantees a better protection of the rule of law for these clients that might not feel really understood by UAE Emirati lawyers. Not because, just because the cultural differences are sometimes great, and a woman or a man might feel embarrassed or not comfortable to discuss certain issues. And an Emirati lawyer might also not feel comfortable to listen to certain issues. Therefore, I do absolutely welcome the fact that the court, the Abu Dhabi Judicial Department, has given foreign lawyers that opportunity. It's just amazing.
I think it's amazing.
I also, as a foreign lawyer here, I missed going to court, which I enjoyed when I was in Italy. So it's nice sometimes to just discuss, a case in person and having the opportunity to explain one's point of view. I have to say again, courts manner in Abu Dhabi Judicial Department are amazing. There is a very respectful way of addressing everyone in the court. We really loved working with them. As I said, Dubai Personal Status Court is still very early days. We haven't finished a full case yet, so I don't want to express myself because I don't have the full experience.
You're still yet to see how that goes.
Yes, because it just started. They just started a few months ago. So I'm very curious to see how the personal status course for non-Muslim because the one for Muslim, of course, has been there for a while. And we have several cases now. New cases that we are addressing is very new. This is a very new case with regards to tourists that married in Abu Dhabi with a civil marriage in Abu Dhabi Judicial Department.
Because the new law allows tourists to get married here.
Exactly, and they can also divorce here, even though they're no longer living here.
Okay.
And so I hope to. We're just now at the stage of giving some advice on the procedure. So we haven't again finished or started this divorce yet, but it will be interesting to see how is that going to work out because. Right, the portal, for instance, everything works with the UAE pass. But of course, if you're a tourist, you don't have that. So that was the first question I asked myself. Okay, how do we make the application? Because you can do the application for sure. It's written on the portal. So there are still
practicalities that needs to be
or that I might not know yet because I haven't done one because you know what the law is 2021 issued in 2021 so the 14th of 2021 that allowed this the civil marriage, so we are very curious to see how that goes.
Interesting. I have something that one thought that came to my mind. I've been involved many times in mediation in divorces. So especially for non-Muslims, and they were the few cases that I handled were all European nationals. I got the feeling that because of the lack of knowledge about how the court will handle the person's status of non-Muslims, even if they get the legal advice proper way, there was this kind of level of uncertainty of really what would the Sharia influence court in the person's status, with the person's status law apply to them. And we found that many divorces happen in settlement, that you don't go to court. Do you think with the application of the new laws and starting up the new personal status courts for non-Muslims will give more confidence, will surge the number of cases that we will see in the UAE?
I think it will because, especially at the moment, there is also really forum shopping because at the moment, because of Law 14, 2021 in Abu Dhabi, we found, and we always recommend to our clients, whenever possible, let's establish jurisdiction in Abu Dhabi. Because Law 14 of 2021, for divorce of Abu Dhabi residents or domiciled, is a lot more protective of women.
That's true.
And because of that, and it's also clearer in what we can ask.
Yes.
While Regulation 122 of 2023, which is the implementation regulation of Law 41 of 2022, is actually not as clear in what is supposed to be, what are the rights of a woman
for women in divorce
cases from an economic standpoint.
Right.
Law 14 of 2021 is very specific. This helps us because it gives us a better understanding and the ability of making a prediction that is closer to what the judgment will be. Yes. Also because it puts the woman in a stronger position. We have found that when we start proceedings of divorce in Abu Dhabi, we have a higher chance to reach an agreement, economic agreement between the spouses if they continue to divorce. And sometimes if they decide to stay together, it helps us to force the husband to recognize the economic rights of the wife. Because, you know, when you've been married for 26, 27 years, and the wife has never worked, and she's now in her 50s, it's a very vulnerable position to be in. If your wife decides to, you know, look for other pastures or stray away from the family. And the woman with most of the women here, this is why, you know, I'm very involved into teaching women financial independence. Most of the women here, but not only here, even in Italy, I think 40% of Italian women don't have their own bank account.
No financial independence. This is a huge thing.
They don't have a bank account.
Yes.
So anytime they need to buy anything, they need to ask, please, and can I, and it's, right, it's just amazing that that still happens, because the fact that they are homemakers, the fact that they work at home for 12 hours, cleaning and cooking and taking the children from school and so forth and so on, that's a job. It's just that it's not paid, but it's still a job.
Yes.
So we need to teach women first, and perhaps their parents, why it's important to teach them to how to gain that financial independence. Even if they want to be housemakers.
Yeah, of course. Or even know their rights.
Exactly. Even if they want to stay housewives, and even if their husband wishes for them to do that, that can be right for some people and some couples. But women financial protection must be there. And I think maybe actually Muslim background individuals and couples are better prepared to protect women in such circumstances compared to couples coming from the West. Because in the West, they've been selling financial independence to women, meaning you have to work, you have to be the perfect housewife, you have to be the perfect mother, and you need to make as much money as possible, which you will never make enough money to, or the same amount of money of your husband, but you still have to pay 50% of the cost.
Yes.
Where is the fairness of that?
Yeah.
That it's not fair. And so we need to make sure that we kind of find something that works that balances out things, and that allows women to have some certain financial safety and safety net and security. Yeah. And I think what Abu Dhabi law did was giving women that, I think they realized that there was an issue in expats coming here.
Yes.
And they realized they had to step in by, you know, setting out some boundaries and some laws to protect those situations.
Absolutely.
To protect women in those situations.
I totally agree with you, but you know, I will add on that I had the experience that sitting with a lot of clients, not just expats, even Muslim women who are married, and they get shocked when they know what are their rights, even as per the Sharia law, because many misconceptions around the Sharia regulations or around the personal status law that the women don't know. The problem is really knowledge, is not just the regulations.
Exactly.
And sometimes I get the questions like, why no one told me? And then I look at my client and I tell her, like, I'm sorry, you have to open a book or read something or research.
Or ask or research.
Marriage.
But also comes from parents' education.
Of course.
And parents should be the first one to teach their children how to protect themselves, teach their girls, how do you protect yourself when you go into a marriage to ensure that, you don't find yourself in an abusive situation.
Yes, and the rights and the obligations, the rights of custody, the rights of how to treat your children and how to treat your spouses.
So in our team, we have, for instance, Muslim and non-Muslim lawyers. Yeah. We really cooperate with each other. We follow cases that are, there can be, Muslim divorces. There are lots of cases where, there are couples that are mixed, where the wife might be Christian and the husband might be Muslim. In Italy, for instance, you can do a dual ritual marriage where it's both blessed by the church and by the imam, and so it's an amazing, a wonderful experience for them. But when it comes to divorce, many women, they don't realize that then when you come to a Muslim country, then Sharia law will apply to your divorce.
Yes.
Because your children will be Muslim.
Of course.
And so this often happens, and then we have to work together to undo their preconception and then work with them to kind of say, okay, let's let her explain to you what your rights are.
Exactly.
How we can work with the law of 2005 compared to the one for non-Muslim, and how we can achieve the substantially same results. It's just we have to do it in another way, and we have different, of course, strategies depending on the client's specific situation.
Yes.
But what I find it's really interesting is that between our team, there is constant confrontation on, not confrontation in a negative way, but more like an exchange of information between Muslim living abroad, grow up in the UK, and non-Muslim, and we try to see, okay, how can we help this couple? How can we help that couple? How do we achieve that result for this client? And it's not just about the law, of course, it's also, you need to have empathy and emotional part and the support. We also do try mediation. However, I also feel that some, not all, but some mediators just take advantage of the situation and let the situation drag for years and years, as much as they can, to increase their revenues.
Hours are going.
Exactly. And it's like, and then couples come to us, or, one of the partners the spouses come to us, and they are completely drained of money, drained of energy. They can't focus anymore.
Yes.
And so we try to close it in the shortest period of time that we can, because we understand that our clients' value and focus must be into positive action, into things that they can, control. And so we give them the control back.
Yes, divorce is a very distressed situation, and I can understand very well the emotional part, and I believe there is an ethical obligation on the legal consultant and the whoever lawyer handling the case, is not just to give pure legal advice and just do your work. You must also advise the parties, your client mainly, would this action benefit them on the long run, because the economical value on the claim is one thing, but there's other distress situations that can drag into the children or the social
yes, of course.
Image of both parties that has to be taken into play. Recently, we know that the cohabitation between unmarried couples is not anymore an illegal situation.
Yeah.
And we would like that you highlight and give us a little bit of an example. What is this change in the law?
Yeah. So, there's not really a big change in the law, in the sense that law, I think it's, I wrote it down, it's Law 31 of 2021, which made some amendments to Federal Law 3 1987, which is the UAE Penal Code, has abrogated Article 356, which was the article used to punish cohabitation. However, it is also still a kind of a subject that is not, to me, completely clear, because while on the one side the Article 356 has been abrogated, on the other side Article 409, which is traditionally the article that covers adultery and consensual intercourse outside of wedlock, it's not been abrogated, although the application of Article 409 can only be actioned by the spouse or the guardian. And again, we go back to your question that you asked me before, right? What if parents use financial blackmailing or financial violence to not to allow their children to live life the way they want? So Article 409 is something that parents can use to counteract against any of the children maybe using other articles of the penal code to protect their economic rights. So because of the existence of this article, although cohabitation per se is not
a crime
anymore, but cohabitation and then having intercourse, it is
still
crime,
a crime,
right? Or it can be a crime, actionable only
if
by
someone makes,
if somebody makes a claim.
But this makes the rights between these partners in this kind of
very
unregulated
risky
relationship, non-regulated.
And also, the other thing that I find is a little in a gray area is what happens to the children of these couples.
Absolutely, yes.
Because while we know that in the case of a divorce, children's custody is 50% basis, it is unclear what happens if, let's suppose, couples that are cohabiting have a child here. The child is born here, so the law says, okay, they can get a marriage certificate, and each municipality, each emirate will decide how to get the birth certificate. However, what happens if then this couple decouple themselves and decide, okay, we don't want to live together anymore? There still can be a dispute arising on how to raise the children, how to support them, how to pay for their education, food, their housing, accommodation, everything, travel. Where do they go? Where do they go to live? Where can they go back to their country? Can they not? There is no real regulation of what happens.
So this is yet to be amended or ready to be updated later on.
We've had several inquiries on cases like this. We've not had instruction yet to try to get the father to start paying, alimony for the children of the unmarried couple. We think we're going to have a case soon, and we're going to try to go to Abu Dhabi court. We're going to try to use the laws that protect children in a way that is like, that because although the law does not provide directly, however, the law, it is issued in the best interest of the child.
Yes.
The best interest of the child is to have both parents. The fact that one of the parents decided to no longer be in the presence or being responsible of the guardianship of the child doesn't mean that is no longer responsible of maintaining economically that child.
Yes.
And so we're going to try to use the same laws to see if by similarities, the application of the law can be extended to children coming from unmarried couples. We don't know if we're going to get what the response of the court
would be very interesting to see.
But would be very interesting to see. I personally would like to try it because I'd like to know that children that
can be protected in this sense.
In the situation. Because at the end of the day, the people that pay the highest price in any divorce, in any decoupling, are the children.
Absolutely.
And so for me, as an operator within the justice system, and in order to abide by my public function, my number one priority is to protect the interest of the children.
100%.
That is my number one priority, and that is always how I look at cases that I undertake, and this is what I try to do. For me, having parents that are still in the same house for years and years without a resolution for the children is not the right thing. Absolutely. And so we do all we can to avoid for that to happen. And let's see, I don't know, maybe we can do another interview where we,
absolutely,
you know,
afterwards.
if we have some more about,
of course,
you know, children's custody that coming from out of wedlock relationship.
Thank you very much for being with us. It would be interesting to see how this case folds up, and we will invite you back to give us a brief about it.
It would be my pleasure to be here again. I hope that was interesting, and if anybody has any other question, they can follow up with me. Our website is yungo.ai, so it's easy to find me there.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, and this is your dose for Monday Legal. See you next week.